you were saying,
Well, I was.
for example,
Well, I was saying, for example, that this, which is the V&A, right, is that their usual thing, what's on guide they do every couple of months. I was saying that you were asking me whether I could do that in how much I charge, and whether I would do that in as a website. Now, the thing I always have with these things is that print designers cannot design for web for shit generally, and so stuff like this does not translate at all. Things that's very fine. So, and they always like things in very, very small font. So you probably can't see that because it's very good at doing close-ups, but very fine fonts. And so I always end up doing it large, and then they tell me to reduce it down. So why were you asking about this wonderful thing?
precisely for the reasons that you've just said, that the problem is that people start off from a print document and then expect somebody to be able to turn that into something on the web, maybe with a couple of navigation buttons.
Rather than actually designing
from
the thing
from scratch.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes clients do understand that, but they tend to be the newer brands like Orange or Palm, or the technological people understand they are separate identities. And usually to work on little tiny devices, which I don't have one. Well, this kind of thing. If you want to work on something like that, they understand that you have to design it from scratch. Whereas otherwise, you have to argue these things, because the print designer usually will have a thing where they usually what's called what do they call it, alpha? Yes, alpha designers, alpha male designers, usually males, and they have a thing about it's got to be done exactly as they want it, and it has to be done. I hate doing this. Has to be done in a certain way.
At some point in the future, this will be Control P in a content management system.
Possibly.
But that's going to be a long time away.
Well, you've got a lot of the cultural stuff. You have to. I mean, like, look at your T-shirt. Your lovely T-shirt, which is I like a lot. And see the back. Which I really don't understand what that's about. But somebody designed that T-shirt.
A bloke called Colombo.
And
who's known for designing furniture as well.
That kind of thing is so specific that you couldn't do a Control P on something like that, because there is content.
Sorry, you couldn't what?
Do Control P on that? You couldn't, because the content's there, but it's not textual. It's visual. And you can't translate those memes automatically. You can't say, "Oh, I want a dove with a thing," because it'll do it, but then it'll just...
No, but you can immediately tell this is the dove of peace.
Yeah.
But this is the dove of peace with irony in the context of the Cold War.
Which is appropriate for the Cold War modern thing we've gone.
That's right. But then to say, well, who is capable of deconstructing the concept of the dove of peace? You have no alternative but to turn it into words. Now, the fact that we would recognise this as actually the pigeon of Trafalgar Square, and that it's actually Ken Livingstone on the other side, would be to take postmodernist irony beyond the limit.
I don't think you necessarily have to translate it to words. It's got power as a visual thing in itself. That's why that whole Che Guevara thing they had here years ago was proof of that. The image in itself was powerful. You didn't need to write about it. In fact, I thought the writing about it in the exhibition was like total bullshit, because it was just like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Well, this is the dialectic in a nutshell, isn't it? That actually you can't look at this without in your mind appearing the words, the dove of peace.
No.
And then you immediately jump back to Noah and the 40 days of the flood.
Well, yeah.
And according to your cultural apparatus, you then join together a variety of other signifiers. And according to how well the library's been catalogued, if you do dove of peace And we now have Wikipedia and Google, and you can also tell from John's tone of voice that he's turning into lecture mode. And I think we've got more here now than a single video cast would do.
Yes.
Because we've now got 3 or 4 threads, and this on YouTube is going to have enough stuff there to get fur flying for a while.
Or feathers. Oh, and John. Yeah.